5 of our 8 battleships. To lose 1 is a national catastrophe. What happened at Pearl Harbor is somewhere in the mega disaster category.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at the most shocking moments in American history that left the world questioning just how secure the country is.
It is clear in this document that Bush does say, I had the responsibility, but he clearly sees that as something different than having the blame.
Jonathan James NASA hack. As the 20th century neared its conclusion, cyber crimes went from science fiction to a reality, with consequences beyond the digital realm. The most prominent wake-up call arguably came in 1999, when NASA and the Department of Defense got hacked. More than 3,300 emails were intercepted with usernames and passwords stolen. Who breached this seemingly impenetrable security system? Jonathan James, aka Comrade, the 15-year-old son of a computer programmer. NASA shut down its computers for 21 days, while James was apprehended in early 2000. Pleading guilty to accessing 13 computers, James received 7 months under house arrest and probation. James didn't cause irrevocable harm, but if a Florida teenager could breach government systems, there was little stopping others as cyber terrorism became an urgent threat. The attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was only a couple of months into his first term as president when John Hinckley Jr., fueled by his obsession with Jodie Foster, opened fire outside the Washington Hilton.
This is Fielman's NBC video played at Hinckley's trial. You can see Reagan emerging from the hotel at the far right of the screen.
Everything is so fast, it's almost like a blur.
Reagan was left in critical condition, but survived following emergency surgery. Officer Thomas Delahanty, Secret Service agent Tim McCarthy, and White House Press Secretary James Brady were also wounded, the latter succumbing to his injuries over 30 years later.
For the Reagan family, for the Brady family, for the families of the other 2 victims, for Jodie Foster, I apologize for what I've done, for what I did 41 years ago.
Jerry Parr, the special agent who pushed Reagan into his limousine, was praised for saving the president's life, as was McCarthy for taking a bullet for him. However, the fact that Hinckley came so close to assassinating Reagan revealed how easily civilians could approach a president without being meticulously scanned, changing security protocols moving forward.
With each death, each near miss, protection has gotten better. Yet for the Secret Service, for any president, it remains a risk which comes with the oath of office.
National Security Agency breach. Sometimes U.S. security is so focused on outside threats that they overlook what's right under their noses.
The NSA specifically targets the communications of everyone. It ingests them by default. It collects them in its system, and it filters them, and it analyzes them, and it measures them, and it stores them for periods of time.
In 2013, NSA contractor Edward Snowden released classified documents that exposed the government's worldwide surveillance programs. Criminal charges were brought against Snowden, who had already fled the country, receiving asylum in Russia.
There are, no country is perfect, and Russia has some political policies that I disagree very strongly with. They monitor the internet in ways I consider inappropriate. But my day-to-day life, it's much better than prison.
To some, Snowden is a traitor to his nation. To others, he's a hero who exposed the reach of Big Brother. Whatever your opinion of Snowden is, most would agree that this massive intelligence leak did little to encourage faith in the NSA. Ironically, the NSA attempted to put the world under a magnifying glass.
Terrorists will come after us if they can. And the only thing that we have to deter this is good intelligence, to understand that a plot is being hatched and to get there before they get to us.
Now, all eyes were on the NSA, leading to some of their programs, like mass phone surveillance, being ruled illegal. The attempted assassinations of Gerald Ford. In September 1975, President Gerald Ford was nearly assassinated not once, but twice. Visiting Sacramento, Ford came within handshaking distance of Manson family member Lynette Squeaky Fromm, who planned to shoot the president with an M1911 pistol.
26-year-old Lynette Squeaky Fromm pointed a Colt .45 caliber pistol at then-President Gerald Ford.
Fromm might have succeeded if the gun hadn't been improperly loaded, allowing the Secret Service to apprehend her. Only 17 days later in San Francisco, another woman targeted the president. From a crowd 40 feet away, Sarah Jane Moore fired at Ford.
Moore fired a single shot at President Ford September 22, 1975, outside a hotel in San Francisco.
After missing once, Moore took another shot when a Vietnam War veteran, Oliver Sipple, grabbed her arm. Sipple's intervention caused the bullet to miss Ford, instead hitting taxi driver John Ludwig, who sustained minor injuries. Following back-to-back security failures, Ford began wearing a bulletproof trench coat in public.
Following both attempts, a bulletproof trench coat was given to President Ford the following month in October of 1975.
Las Vegas mass shooting. The surge of mass shootings in the U.S. has sparked many conversations about gun control. The 2017 Las Vegas shooting was no exception. Occurring during the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival, it remains America's deadliest shooting carried out by a single person, Stephen Craig Paddock. Beyond gun violence, this tragedy got people talking about security or lack thereof. Hundreds of victims pursued legal action against MGM Resorts International, citing insufficient surveillance, improperly trained staff, and slow response.
The shooter may have taken his motive to the grave, but MGM says the massacre was still clearly an act of terrorism that the company argues they're not legally responsible for.
Paddock, a high-stakes gambler, also had VIP privileges that allegedly enabled him to execute this attack. Attorney C. Chad Pinkerton, who represented multiple victims and their families, called the shooting, quote, the largest venue security failure in U.S. history.
The final toll, staggering. 58 dead, over 850 injured. The deadliest mass shooting in modern American history.
In 2020, an $800 million settlement was reached. The attempted assassination of Donald Trump. At a 2016 rally, Michael Steven Sanford attempted to pull a gun out of an officer's holster, targeting Donald Trump.
Thank you, officers.
Michael Sanford being led out of this Trump rally moments after trying to grab a Las Vegas police officer's gun.
Sanford was apprehended, but the future president came closer to assassination 8 years later. At another rally in Pennsylvania, Thomas Matthew Crooks fired 8 shots from a neighboring building, which the Secret Service had flagged as a possible vulnerability. Before a Secret Service sniper took him down, Crooks killed bystander Corey Compertor, critically injured 2 others, and hit Trump's upper right ear. Weeks earlier, the Secret Service gained intel on an Iranian plot to assassinate Trump.
In the weeks leading up to Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania, we're now learning there was already increased security around the former president, after U.S. officials obtained intelligence that there may be an Iranian plot to assassinate him.
Although this was unrelated to Crooks, the additional security measures taken had little impact. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle admitted that the incident was, quote, the most significant operational failure at the Secret Service in decades, and resigned.
The director of the Secret Service has resigned, her resignation coming just one day after Kimberly Cheadle was grilled by members of Congress on both sides of the aisle during a testy hearing with the House Oversight Committee yesterday.
January 6th Capitol attack. Months after Joe Biden was elected America's 46th president, thousands stormed the U.S. Capitol building hoping to overturn the results.
To use a favorite term that all of you people really came up with, we will stop the steal.
This act of domestic terrorism didn't succeed, but it left several dead and numerous people injured with millions in damages. Some blamed Donald Trump, who spoke at the Save America rally shortly before the attack.
And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here, we're going to walk down to the Capitol.
In any case, January 6th spoke volumes about national security. While the attack came as a surprise to some, the FBI and Homeland Security were accused of not taking online threats seriously. The National Park Service was criticized for not properly reviewing the Save America rally. Capitol Police was also ill-equipped to handle such an attack, although initial steps have been taken to prevent another incident.
People were saying, well, this just can't happen. And these groups of folks, they can't do that. Well, now we know they can.
The assassination of John F. Kennedy. Before November 22, 1963, 3 U.S. presidents had been assassinated in office: Abraham Lincoln, James Garfield, and William McKinley.
When his turn came to shake hands with McKinley, he instead drew a gun hidden beneath his handkerchief and shot the president twice, point blank in the stomach. His name was Leon Czolgosz.
After McKinley died in 1901, the Secret Service became a presidential mandate. The idea of a sitting president being assassinated seemed like a thing of the past until John F. Kennedy's limousine passed the Texas Schoolbook Depository.
On November 22, 1963, President Kennedy and the First Lady arriving in Dallas on that day that would change America, that tragic trip through Dealey Plaza. The first couple riding through that windy road in Dallas in a Lincoln Continental.
Shooter Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy in addition to wounding Texas Governor John Connally and a bystander, James Tague. Investigations suggested that nearly a half-dozen secret security agents had been out drinking the night before. Some argued Kennedy was reckless, wanting to drive in an open-top vehicle with security keeping a distance.
Between his arrival at Love Field and his speech, he's to lead a motorcade through the center of downtown Dallas.
The motorcade has over 12 cars. Kennedy is riding in a 3-road Lincoln Continental convertible limousine with the top down.
Even so, JFK's assassination, along with his brother's 5 years later, reshaped the Secret Service. Attack on Pearl Harbor. By December 7, 1941, World War II had been underway for 2 years, with America sitting on the sidelines.
On Sunday, December 7, 1941, shortly before 8 a.m., Japan launched a surprise attack on the United States of America by bombing the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii.
The U.S. officially joined the war after the Japanese military attacked Pearl Harbor's naval station, claiming more than 2,000 American lives. Although often described as a surprise attack, there were several warning signs. In January 1941, Ambassador Joseph Grew informed the U.S. State Department of a rumor that Japan planned to bomb Pearl Harbor.
While the attack on Pearl Harbor was a surprise, tensions between the U.S. and Japan had deteriorated over the decade, in particular with regards to Japan's expansion into China.
Even as tensions between the US and Japan became more evident, Grew's prediction of an attack went ignored. A lack of coordination between the US Navy and Army also left Pearl Harbor vulnerable. For 60 years, it would stand alone as the most infamous day in American history.
This kind of attack had never been launched before, by which I mean this kind of attack, an attack by carrier-based aircraft.
And Pearl Harbor was a target-rich environment.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. September 11th attacks. 8 years after the World Trade Center bombing, another terrorist attack raised security concerns to unprecedented levels.
Surely an accident, we thought.
They just think there's going to be another explosion.
But no, it was the first direct act of war against the United States in over 50 years.
Along with the Twin Towers, plane hijackers targeted the Pentagon and a third location. The latter aircraft didn't reach its destination thanks to the brave passengers, but September 11th was nonetheless defined by tragedy. The Bush administration would be accused of ignoring intelligence pointing to a possible attack.
They could see dots of information all over the place ahead of time, but even the best intelligence officers in the world couldn't connect them into a constellation that warned of the specific event in a way that they might be able to prevent it.
Whether or not 9/11 could have been prevented, this failure of security isn't restricted to one politician or organization. Limited resources and communication are just some of the variables that led to the unthinkable. Over the next decades, U.S. security underwent a significant overhaul. For all the improvements, security remains a pressing issue, with some threats hitting closer to home.
We were not collaborating. Fortunately, we are now collaborating much more extensively. That's probably the number one lesson learned, that entities have to work closely together, local, state, federal.
Which moment in U.S. history left you feeling insecure? Let us know in the comments.
And at one point, Mrs. Connolly in the car says, "You can't say Dallas doesn't love you, can you?" And President Kennedy replies, "No, you certainly can't."
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.